Hello YouTubers, what we're going to do today is we are going to make some shrink plastic leaves. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our shrink plastic, we are going to use a Sharpie to draw out our leaves on it, cut it out with our Cameo, then we are going to color them, shrink them, and then put UV resin on them. So let me go show you what you need. So here are all of our supplies that we are going to need. It's a bit of a lot, so I will leave a list and links down in the description below. So we are going to need some clear shrink plastic. I'm using the Grafix brand. Any brand will work, to be honest. I bought this at Hobby Lobby because as of the making of the video, it is the cheapest place to get it and it's down the street from me. So you're just going to want to make sure that your brand is clear to get that see-through watercolory kind of effect. The white brand and obviously frosted is not going to do that. This also is 8.5 by 11. Some brands out there are 8 by 10. So if you set it up in the software as 8.5 by 11, it's obviously not going to line up. So pay attention to the size. We are going to sand to get our colors to stick on the back, and then we are going to use washi tape as always. Now we are going to use my Cameo 2 for this today because, quite frankly, it's my favorite machine. Any of the Cameos can do this. Cameo 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Also, Cricut can do this, and so can the Caesar machines as well. Now, we are going to draw my veins out in this brown Sharpie. You can use any number of things to draw this, but this is what we're going to use. And I'm using the ultra fine point. Now, I normally use the Tombow marker holder for a lot of my drawing. It's normally my favorite. For this, I'm going to use the Silhouette's actual drawing tool. The reason why is that the veins won't line up. This holds the marker all the way to the back instead of in the center. And so if you look, my veins are get off. So we're gonna use the actual marker holder today from Cameo, from Silhouette. Then we are going to need your jewelry findings, whatever jewelry findings you're gonna want. My ears aren't pierced, so I can't make earrings, so we're making a necklace. So I've got a chain and jump rings. You're probably gonna need a little screwdriver or pliers for that too. Then I've got this stuff up here for UV resin. So I've got UV resin, my little silicone brushes, my sealer, and then I've got a lamp over there as well. That's going to be if you want to put UV resin on there. You do not have to. You could use Mod Podge. You can just use the sealer itself if you wanted to. There's also like triple thick. So you need to seal them some way because they will run if you don't. And then we are going to use the Tombow markers, and then the alcohol ink markers. So I highly recommend you keeping out all your little scraps. And what I did is I just went through and colored and shrunk so that you can kind of see all the different colors I labeled. These are little testers that I've done. So highly recommend. I basically just pulled out every single marker that I had, marker, color pencil. So basically what I did is I just pulled out every single marker, color pencil, pastel, anything that I had basically, and just colored them and smudged them. You are gonna want some either Q-tips or your fingers or something. The Posca markers are another one that you can use. So whatever the look is that you're going to go for, the Posca markers give you a solid color instead of a transparent one. So basically it's up to you and what you want your leaves to look like. Highly recommend pulling out every single marker you have in your house, putting it out, shrinking it, seeing what it looks like, seeing if it's what you want. If it is, go for it. If it's not, then move along to something else. So what we're going to do first is we're going to sand. You're going to want to sand, so if you do exactly what I do, you're going to want to sand the back of your shrink plastic. Obviously, it doesn't matter which side you decide is the front or the back. The reason being is that the markers will stick better when it is sanded. If you use color pencils or pastels that has to be sanded, they will not stick otherwise. If you use the Posca markers, you don't have to sand. So there is a bit of trial and error with this, or just, I would say trial and error, but playing around with it in order to kind of get the look that you want to. Now you're just lightly sanding. You're not like, you know, we're not taking off finish here. just to get the shiny off. And when you do that, you want to hold it up, and sometimes you'll see along the top here. I don't know if you will see. It's just not really sanded, so you just want to make sure none of it's shiny anymore. Also, don't do this if you want to use Sharpie. The Sharpie markers and alcohol markers will run on this. So if you want like a crisp line, don't do that. Now we've got it all sanded. This is just some water, and this is a coffee filter, partly because Walmart delivered them to my house by accident, but I've learned they don't shred. So you can use a paper towel as well, but they just kind of work because they don't shred and leave you little bits of paper around. And then we can go put this on our mat. All right, so we've got our mat, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna place our shrink plastic sunny side up. We're gonna place it shiny side up. We're gonna draw on the shiny side, and that's gonna be the top of our leaves. And then I'm gonna tape it a little bit just for some insurance because my mat isn't 100% sticky. All right, so we're in Silhouette Studio. I have my page set up already over here. Now I have this set up as a letter, which is 8.5 by 11. If you end up with some 8 by 10 shrink plastic, you can just change the heights right here to 8 by 11. It'll say custom. And then I have, this is my transparency. A lot of people ask me about that one. So I normally kind of keep it at sort of transparency. Now this is a set of single line sketch files. It's available to purchase over my webpage. Now they are specifically drawn by me to be single line designs. So see, what a lot of people hate with the pens is when you draw with them, they give you this bubbly look, like this A here where it's like an outline. These won't do this. They're all specifically meant for drawing. And basically what I did is I came in here and crammed as many as I could on my piece of paper. So we've got some acorns, pine cones, and then just leaves. And what I did was made my inside here one color and then my outside a different color. So let's show you a couple of, so now first off, if you want, see how these are fatter, you can come over here, up here to point, and they will make them fatter or skinnier. It will affect nothing on the cutting of these or the drawing of these. It'll just make them easier for you to see. If you do go to print them, they will show up, but other than that, it's just so you can see them a little bit easier. So that is your point. And then since these are sketch files or single line files, you need to go over here to line color. And then you can change your line colors to whatever it is. Let's make this fatter real quick. You can change your line colors to whatever it is you want to make them. So I just made all of my outsides one color and all of my insides a different color so that it's easier for me to cut them. So those are all my leaves, and then these are my other ones. I did these beforehand in gold, and so that's why they're in green. But now we're going to go over. The Silhouette cannot cut through the shrink plastic. It can score it and make it easier for us to pop out. So that's what we're going to do. Now, this by far is my favorite sleeve to cut out because it pops out of that shrink plastic really easy because it's got all these rounded edges. This maple leaf right here, I will never cut again. It is a pain in the butt because they're all pokey leaves and it's a nightmare to get out of shrink plastic. So, bubbly, rounded, your friend. Sharp and pokey, definitely not. And you can put any combination of leaves you want to in here. It's just whatever you kind of want. All right, so we're going to go to the sun panel. Now under simple, it lights everything up and it's a bit of a nightmare to unclick and reclick and do all of that. So we're going to go over to line color up here. And then the green ones down here are already turned on because I did them in gold beforehand. So we are going to turn these off, and then we're going to turn on our purple. Those are all of our veins of our leaves. So if you wanted to cut multiple colors of veins or multiple colors of an image, this is how you would do it. You could turn them on and off as you want to. The big thing is just don't unload them. So we're going to draw and then we're going to cut. So don't unload the machine. You'll never get it to line up again. As long as you don't unload it, you can cut and recut and draw as many different colors as you want to. So we're going to do cardstock plain here, and then I'm going to change this to down here to sketch. I'm going to change it to pen holder. I don't honestly know if it matters. And then I just leave this as is with a force of 7 and a speed of 5. If you're drawing the most ornate thing in the world, you might want to bump your speed down, but we're just drawing some straight lines. So now we're going to take our pen holder. So now I'm going to show you how to put your pen in your pen holder, and then we are going to draw. All right, so let's put together our little silhouette pen holder here. So they come with these little cuffs, small, medium, and a large. So we're going to use the medium and put our pen on. And then you put your pen in as far as it can go. And then we're going to screw down this little cuff. It may pop on you, but if it does, just screw it down again. And then you just want to make sure that it doesn't move. You kind of see why it's not my favorite, but we kind of need it for this. If you don't want to buy a new one and you have this, what I would do is just with some paper, run some tests. My guess is you can probably move your design down and get it to line up, but I had this, so we're just going to use this guy. All right, this is my little Cameo 2. This is my little pen holder end, and then we are going to hit the send button on all of my veins. All right, so those are all of our little veins. Now, I did want to mention a couple other things. This Cameo 2, so she's got the little wheels and I can't move them. Now, it works out because the Sharpie doesn't drag, but I would definitely test this if you're going to use this on an older machine. 2, some of the pen holders can drag depending on the pen, the holder, the machine, the year, all of it. So I would definitely test it first. You can use like a penny or a popsicle stick underneath to bump it up a little bit if the pen holder is dragging. All right, so all of my little veins are done. Now we're going to turn it off and turn my cardstock on. And these are all my red outlines of my leaves here. Now they have a shrink plastic in here. I don't think it really matters. Once again, the machine can't actually cut all the way through it. So what you're going to do is basically score it and then pop it out. So shrink plastic, we're going to cut. We've got our manual blade in here. Force of 33, and then I'm going to use a blade depth of 10. 2 passes, and then I'm going to set a speed of 5 so that we're not here all day. Now, if you're cutting out the most detailed thing in the world, you're going to want to slow your speed down. If you're cutting out a really big blob, you can increase your speed. We're going to do 2 passes, and then we're going to test it and see if we get a dent on the back of it. If we do, then we're good. If we don't, we'll run it through to another 2 passes. You can do this as many times as you want to, as long as you don't unload it. That is the key. Don't unload it. Shrink plastics to me seem to vary based on brand, color, the mood of the universe. I don't know, but sometimes 2 passes are good. Sometimes you're going to be here for 4 passes. It just kind of depends. Alright, so what we're going to do is you're going to peel off, and then you're going to see if you've got like a dent in the back, or if you can crack it with your fingernail, then you're good to go. So I'm actually going to run this through for another 2 passes because I can't really break it with my fingernail very easily, and then we should be good. Once again, I want to remind you, we have not unloaded this at all, not even once during this whole process. You can do this as much as you want to, as long as you don't unload it. Alrighty, so see, now this one I busted through with my fingernail. Now you don't have to do obviously the whole thing, but as long as you've got a big of a dent in the bottom, you can kind of pop it through. Then you are good to go. We're going to unload, and then we are going to cut them out. Alright, so we are going to pop them off our mat here. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to cut them out, kind of around our whole leaf here. And then they should be scored well enough that you can just pop them out of the plastic here. Now keep in mind that shrink plastic will tear. If it does, it's not really that big of a deal, because by the time you get it shrunk, you probably won't notice. It is going to want to tear more likely around pokey parts. That's why I said this is the one and only maple leaf I will ever cut out. All of the pokey ends just about drove me nuts. So bubbly shapes are going to be easier than sharp corners. Also, if you have too much extra around it, sometimes it can make it where it doesn't want to pop off. It kind of gets caught up. So that's why I recommend like cutting off little bits from the big sheet instead of trying to cut them out when they're all still attached. And that is our leaf. All right, so I've got several of them cut out. Any big scraps, highly recommend to keep, and so you can try out different colors. Another thing to keep in mind is your colors are going to get darker from what they look like when you just put them on there. When you bake them, they'll get darker. So any big scraps, totally recommend keeping. You're going to want to put holes in them first. You are not getting holes in them once they're already shrunk down unless you're using power tools. So this is a crocodile. You can just use a good old hole puncher. Also, I promise, they do tear. So we'll probably do some weird color on this and see how it goes. It's just a necklace for me, so I don't know. Sometimes I like little mess ups just because I feel like they're artistic. All right, now we're gonna color them. Remember, smooth, shiny side is what we drew on, so we want to draw on the sanded rough part. Honestly, this is all up to you and how you want to color them, what you want them to look like. Highly recommend trial and error here and try out a bunch of different combinations and colors, markers, and all of that. So for this one, put the caps on your markers so they don't dry out. These are Tombow markers. You've probably seen me use them in my little knockoff watercolor videos that I do for the seasons. I love watercolor, but I can't watercolor because I just end up with a brown mess. So I use these a lot with water. And so we put out our different colors here. And then I'm going to use, this is a Q-tip, to kind of blend them all together here. Now keep in mind, obviously, that the stronger color of this green here is going to overpower the yellow. So keep that in mind when you're trying to blend here. And keep in mind that this will get darker once we bake. Flip it over. Make sure you haven't left your fingerprints in it and see how it looks. And you can see how it looks on this paper. I'm using a Q-tip. You can also use your fingers if you want to, or gloves in your finger. It's up to you. And I'm using paper to kind of help contain some of the mess. So flip it over and look. And then that is what we are going to go with. I've also used combinations of red and orange and yellow. Now, honestly, this is really up to you. I'm using my Tombow markers, color pencils, pastels, anything you want to. Keep in mind they'll get darker, and trial and error would be my 2 suggestions here. So try some, then bake them, try some, and then bake them. The other ones that I have used are these Prismacolor. These are alcohol inks. Now, keep in mind that with this one, if you don't wipe them off, you will be able to see all of the marks of the marker. So this one's a Prismacolor, and you can see all of the different little marks from it. Now, you may like that, you may not. They're alcohol inks, so you can spray alcohol on them and get them to run and stuff if you want to do that. Once again, it's all kind of up to you. Now let these dry for a minute, and then we're going to go pop them into the oven. Alright, so that's what the Tombow markers are going to look like with the gradiated colors here. That's a green one that I did as well, where it's green and then out to the yellow. And then this is what the Prismacolor alcohol inks look like. Now, these are going to give you like a see-through watercolory effect if you want that. This is a Posca marker one that I did, and see, it does not. It is a solid color. There's no see-through of that. So pick your colors accordingly. That is what I've gotten done. So we are going to go put this into my little convection oven. I have a convection oven in my basement. It's mostly meant for sublimation. You can use your home oven. They say that it's non-toxic. You can also use the heat guns, but I have a bunch of them. It's also the fall and not 800 degrees outside, so we're going to use the little convection oven. Also, make sure your convection oven is properly warmed up first. Don't just put them in there and then let it warm up. Make sure your convection oven is actually warm first. This is a piece of cardboard with parchment paper on top of it. It has been well loved, as you can see. I have a secondary one, so what's going to happen is once they curl and then starting to flatten back out, I'm going to take them out, put another piece of this parchment paper cardboard on top, and then a good old chemistry book on top of that to make sure everything's flat. So into the oven we go. No, you're not going to get to see it. Go with it. Once they start to flatten back down, pop it out. Oh, it was a mess. Alright. So, my one I had in the oven is down here. This is my secondary one, and then this is the book to help weight them down to make sure they're flat, and then we're going to give them a minute to cool down. So here they all are. I let them cool down for a minute. Now, if they're in the oven and they do something crazy, like they curl too much or they try to stick to each other, just heat them up and then put them underneath the book. You can generally get them to, you can generally save them. Just don't bake them too much. They can get a little crispy. But, so here they are. Now we are going to seal them for UV resin. All right, so we're going to seal these guys next. I'm going to use a spray-on acrylic sealer, and then we're going to put UV resin on it. If you don't want to do that, you can also just use the sealer itself and wear them. You can also use Mod Podge if you have that laying around. If you do not seal them, and then if you don't seal them, period, and try to wear them, they will run. They're not on there. It's not a permanent color bond here. So you do need to seal them in some way, regardless of if you put resin on them or if you don't. If you do not put some kind of a sealer on them and then you put your UV resin on it, it'll peel right off. There's no stopping it. So we're gonna use this. We are outside because this stuff stinks to high heaven. It does dry really quickly, but it is very, very stinky. So what I did is, this is painter's tape, and so I have a sticky side up, and then I just put some, and then I taped it down to my chair. We are outside at 3 in the morning, so it's pretty quiet. It does dry pretty quick. You may get to hear my owls though. It does dry pretty quick, so we're going to spray, wait 5 to 10 minutes, and then flip them and spray the back as well. One thin coat is all you need. All right, so when they are dry and non-sticky, we are going to flip them over and spray the back as well. This isn't 100% necessary, but it's nice because there's so little to keep them from flying away. We're going to let this sit, and then we are going to resin. All right, so we are going to resin now. This is the bottom tray to my little lamp light. So I just put everything in here. That way I can move it and don't have to put my fingers in it. You need to be careful, and you should be wearing gloves and stuff. I'm not, but don't touch it. Don't touch it. Well ventilated area, all that stuff. I'm not the best resiner. I think I just don't have the patience for it. So I'm going to put a dab in, and then we're going to brush it around, making sure you get all the edges nice and coated. They seem to want to kind of pull away from the edge. So we're going to spread. This is, they were labeled as a makeup brushes. I don't know. They would be horrible makeup brushes. They're not very soft. But they're silicone, so the resin doesn't stick to it. You're going to push to the edge. We're doing the backs first. There's no really rhyme or reason. And you can put on as many coats as you want. And then make sure, obviously, you don't put any into the hole. But it really brings out the colors. Now you're going to want to bring them up to the light, double check for it to pull away from the edges or any spots that you didn't cover. You're going to want to let it rest for 5 minutes before you put it under the light, and make sure it does not get into the hole, because you're not going to drill. You're going to have to drill it out if you do want it to work. Also, I don't have any brand loyalty to any resin here. You can use whatever brand it is you like. I think that's the brand off Amazon that everybody gets. All right, so you're going to want to pick these up and make sure and turn and look and make sure everywhere is covered. If you have air bubbles, it is suggested that you let your resin rest for 5 minutes, and then you can hit it with some heat and pop any of the bubbles. I don't know if you can tell, but I've got a bubble there in that one. Yeah, do keep in mind that resin is actually flammable, so don't light it on fire, but you can just pop it with some heat real quick and it'll pop any of those bubbles. All right, so this guy goes in the corner over here because he's really bright, and I'm going to set it for 4 minutes and then check it and see if they're still sticky. If they are, then they need to be cured for a little bit longer. They will get warm as they cure, so sometimes I like to let them rest. So like heat them for 2 minutes and then let them set for 2 minutes. Also, this is like the basic little lamp from like Amazon. It's not anything fancy. It totally works. There are more fancy ones on the market these days if you want one, but you do not absolutely have to have one when you're starting out. If you decide you want to resin the universe, you might want to look into one, but when you're starting, one of these little baby ones is absolutely fine. So our resin is all dry and not sticky. So we're going to flip it over to the front side here, and then we're going to repeat the process. Now you could also add glitter and mica and any number of things to this process if you wanted to. It's really up to you what you want your leaves to look like, how much time, energy, effort, work you want to put into this. It's really up to you and what you want to do. So honestly, the sky's kind of the limit. So we're going to repeat the same process. So those are our leaves all finished up. They have 1 coat of resin on each side. So what I did, I kind of cheated to make my necklace here. This is a chain. It's a big long chain that I got. This is the other part of it that I got from my Walmart. And it's basically just a giant chain. And then it comes with the hardware to the clasp as well. And so all you have to do is buy yourself some jump rings. And I've been using the second largest size over here. And these are really soft jump rings. Normally you need like pliers and all of that. I kind of appreciate that they're not ridiculously hard to get apart. So you just load it in and then slide them together. Don't ever like try to pull them apart, just slide them. Here we go. And then I did 2 for those and then just hooked it on to my necklace where I wanted it. And you're all set. And then you're all set, see? And then I've got all of them up here that I did, and that's my necklace I've been wearing for a while now. So this accidentally turned into, I think, the longest YouTube video I've ever done. If you have managed to make it to this part, thank you so much for watching. I try to put all the parts together, and sometimes I talk too much, but I'd rather too much information than you have to go hunt for different parts and ask me a million questions because you have no idea what's going on. So I hope you appreciated it. If you do have any questions, let me know down in the comments. There'll be a link to, or there'll be a big list of supplies down in the description below because there are a lot of them for this. Yeah, and if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And please like and subscribe and all of that stuff. Thank you so much for watching.